Hi, gorgeous.
Hello, how are
Yeah,
you?
really good. Lovely to see you. I've just saying, going that, to the newbies who might not have come across you yet because you haven't been, understandably, you haven't been particularly online because you had a horrible health scare last summer. And
Yes.
so I just really wanted to introduce them to you and to explain who you are, and that Lizzie is the most creative, fabulously creative cook and a foodie, and she's made HBD work for her and for lots of us by creating delicious recipes that we can all use for our HBD adventure. But over to you, lovely Lizzie. I just wanted to ask you really what's happened. What happened to you over the summer? I know you've been through the ringer.
I have. I have been through the ringer, and you've been really lovely throughout. So thank you. But basically, the reason I wanted to sort of explain at the beginning, obviously, we're here to talk about food, as always, was because I've had so many lovely messages from so many people, and so just to say really thank you for all of those. And also because I've got slight imposter syndrome because I haven't been posting, and I've been cooking madly and in the kitchen and been busy, but I haven't really put anything out for quite a while. So those two reasons, and also because I think in this community we're all of a certain age, or most of us are, and to share it when we've had a shock like this is a really good thing to do, to kind of normalize the fact that we're all human and these things happen, and that it could be okay. So what happened was I had no idea I was okay, and I went to see a doctor about my sinuses, and they found a brain tumor, which was on the 3rd of June. And my children were all in the middle of their GCSE. Well, one of them was in the middle of her GCSEs, and it was, we couldn't really believe it. Tim and I were like, no, it can't be. You really don't think it's going to happen to you. I know that's an old cliche, but I mean, you really don't. And so we had to keep it on the dial down, because I was really worried about the kids finding out, and Scotty had GCSEs, and I was really worried about telling my lovely 77-year-old dad and people like that. I was more worried about them, or really, until of course I got to the point where I then had to go and have surgery, and then I did worry about myself a little bit, I'm not going to lie. But I was really lucky because if you're going to have a brain tumor, I had the right one, and it was benign, and they managed to operate, and I had a craniotomy, and and they patched me up, and I looked a bit like Frankenstein's bride for a while. But I'm still, they say you're not still completely out of the woods for 5 years, but it's as good as you can get. And yeah, so that's what happened. But I'm okay, and I know I'm really blessed. There are people out there that have far worse to deal with, and one of my best friends has been living with stage 4 cancer for years and years, and she's phenomenal. She's just built her own house, and actually when these things happen, it's an impetus really to live your life as fully as you can, and that's all I'm want to do. But so first of all, and also I'm the sort of person that does share what goes on, because it's real life, and lots of people don't feel comfortable with that, and that's up to them. But if anyone out there has ever got any worries about anything like this, send me a message. It's fine, it's okay. And and I am okay. I'm still a bit loony. My memory is not 100%, so bear that in mind. And I'm still a bit in shock, I think, about what happened.
Yeah, of course you are. I mean, I can't imagine. You go and see a doctor because you're having trouble with your sinuses, and then what happened? They did an MRI.
They did an MRI on the Friday, and I'd just been to Limewood with my sisters for my birthday trip. I mean, I was feeling fantastic. Yeah. Did an MRI, and then the secretary called me the next morning and said, "Oh, Dr. Orban, my ENT specialist, would like to do the follow-up on Monday." And I thought, golly, that's a bit quick. So I said to her, that's a bit quick. And she said, no, it's all normal, don't worry. But it was the back of my mind all weekend. And then it was the Monday night, and I was at home with the kids, and I was making spag bol in the kitchen. And I said, guys, I've just got to go and do this quick Zoom call with this doctor, thinking she was going to give me maybe some ear drops or nose drops or something. Yeah. And she said, okay, we're going to move everything to one side on the sinus front, because we found the words they used was a lump in your brain. And I was like, well, what does that even mean? And should I be frightened? And what should I do? And she said, look, you're going to be really busy because we need to treat it. I've already referred you to a neurosurgeon. He got your MRI on Friday morning. It has to be treated, and it has to be investigated. And my advice to you is just don't Google anything, and just, you're going to be really busy, and focus on that. So that's what we did. And that was on the Monday night. Saw the surgeon on the Wednesday. He said 80% chance it's benign, 20% chance it's not. So we need to investigate all of that, which put the, and meanwhile we're going, haha, pretending all's normal with the children and with everyone and everything at home. And they said, we booked you a theatre stop for Friday because it had caused, it was really quite big. So although it was a good one to have, it was quite a big one, and it was causing edema and swelling on my brain and all sorts of things. And I'm obviously quite thick-skinned and robust, because he was quite surprised that I was sort of being normal, well, as normal as I ever am. So on the Friday, that was it, bish bosh bash. I went in and had brain surgery and had a craniotomy, and went into intensive care, and they looked after me, and they were amazing. But it was so quick. And, you know, on one hand, thank God it was so quick, because I literally couldn't have dealt with living with that for much longer. But on the other hand, you know, it's left me with a slight feeling of, did that really happen? And the horrors. So I need to figure out how to deal with that, I think, now. Because, you know, when something like that happens, you don't, because you don't think it's going to happen, you then think, gosh, it could happen again. You know, I never thought that was going to happen, but it did. And so I need to sort that bit out. But I'm pretty strong and robust. And I've had the most unbelievable support from all my, I mean, amazing friends. And the children, when we told them, have been brilliant. And, you know, my family, obviously, I mean, my sisters were there in a heartbeat. So I'm so fortunate, and I'm out of the woods and out the other side of it, and I'm back, and I've been cooking loads, and food has really helped, actually, in all of this, I wanted to say.
Thank goodness for that. Thank goodness. And it is distracting, but as you say, you didn't have any time to think about it. You know, you went from hearing this extraordinary news and the horror and shock of that to having the operation, and at the same time, I can imagine, you know, kind of making light of it for the kids, and not.
Oh yeah. Well, we didn't tell them. We didn't. I pretended. We didn't tell them, because golly, on the day of my surgery, which coincidentally was the 2nd anniversary of my mum's death, I mean, it was all going on that week. Scarlett had her maths and her physics GCSE on the same day. So we were literally, we took a couple of really close friends into confidence and said, and my sisters, and said, right, can you ferry kids around and pretend all was normal? I told the children I was going for a minor op on my sinuses. And off I went. I was in this like space age theatre. It was just like Grey's Anatomy, I have to say, with, you know, a 22 strong neurosurgical team. And I woke up like Mr. Bump. I had a huge bandage on my head. But I woke up, you know, and it was okay. And that was it. And it was when I woke up and they said, look, we now think it's like 98% sure it's benign. So we brought the children into the hospital and told them. And thank God. And, you know, and then I was on such a high, and probably all the drugs, but because I felt like I dodged a bullet. But then the sort of reality kicks in, and then you have to go for your follow-up MRIs and stuff. But, you know, fundamentally, it's, you know, I'm glad it happened so quickly. I'm really fortunate that it did.
You're so, your attitude is amazing, Lizzie. I don't know if you've been able to see, but you've got some lovely messages coming through here. Yeah.
Everyone's so lovely.
Oh, your attitude is incredible, and you're so resilient, you know, and you're saying, oh, excuse me, I'm a bit bonkers now, but I mean, what you've been through is mind-boggling. And I do hope, we were talking earlier on, by the way, me and Lizzie, and I have an amazing osteopath, but he's now moved to Bath. He's called Bevis Nathan. And I don't really have anybody, I can't really recommend anybody in London, but I think that would really help Lizzie. I think that would be really good to kind of, to allow her to release some of that trauma, because it, you know, it is traumatic, however positive we are and however good our attitude is, and that, you know, that needs to be released. So if anybody can recommend somebody really good, that would be fabulous. And
it would be really helpful. Thank you.
But as Lizzie said, you know, she has been offline, understandably, completely, but she's also been cooking up delicious storms, as is her wont, because that's a, you know, a good way to cope with almost anything. But there's more to it than that. She's been cooking up storms for us. And we will be going live with the Eat section on the website, featuring some of Lizzie's incredibly inventive and delicious HBD friendly foods. Not just HBD friendly, but also budget friendly and family friendly, because that's, you know, those things are really, really important. And I want to ask you about that, Lizzie. What are your some of your favorite go-to family-friendly meals that, you know, that everybody loves?
I think it's really important because when I first started HBD, I basically treated myself, and it was really quite easy to do because I would just buy king prawns, or I would go, you know, get really treaty food for one. But then the children were getting involved and going, oh, that looks delicious, and I tried to give them really healthy food. And I've got 17-year-old twin daughters who, you know, they're all kind of into that, gym bunnies and things. So I thought, you know, I really need to focus on food that's not going to bankrupt me, because you can't do that with that many children.
No.
And I also need food that I need things that they're all going to really love and request over non-HBD food, because it's really boring cooking for like 3 different people. And so I would say a couple of things that have really been great. We all have the mince. There's a beef tacos recipe coming out on the website next week. We will all have that. They'll have it with rice. I don't. I have it with the nacho taco things, which you'll see on there. And there's also tabbouleh, which is kind of like a couscous, also kind of vibe, made out of broccoli stalks. And that is brilliant because everybody loves it and it's amazing. And I also like, at the moment, they're all a bit sniffly and coldy and everyone's catching bugs and stuff. So they have that, and we'll all have some chicken or whatever with it. They all love that. And that's also going on. What other things? I mean, those are 2 really good ones off the top of my head, but there's actually quite a lot. Chicken Caesar salad recipe, which is currently on my grid. There's a lot of family favourites now, and the Scandinavian salads everybody loves, poached fish and apples and chicory and dill and mustard and those sorts of flavours everybody loves, and they all got to a point where they started just wanting what I was having, so that's cool. And so that's what we were talking.
Yeah, I mean, one of your many talents, Lizzie, is taking, you know, kind of classic recipes like, you know, chicken Caesar salad or prawn Caesar salad or whatever, and making it HBD friendly, so it's not all weird, you know, like diety type food. And really, really cool. And using things like broccoli stalks. I mean, that's part of the budgeting, I guess, you know, because normally we chop the stalks off and bin them. But you're using them to make something delicious, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and so good for you, I think. Aren't they really high fiber?
Really good. Yeah. No, really, really amazing.
So things like that's really, and it's really important to me because I was saying to you earlier on, you know, I'm only a home cook, and I love it. I've always been passionate about cooking. And when I left home, my mum, quite insultingly, bought me Delia Smith's How to Cook book 1, and I thought I was quite a good cook at that point. But anyway, she did, and it's been like a Bible because it's brilliant, because it takes you back to the basics. And you know, there's lots of delicious, pretty one-off food that I do occasionally, but it's got to be the stuff you eat every day, and it's got to taste yummy and delicious, and it's got to be easy, and it's got to be within everyone's price bracket and suit the family, because otherwise, you know, we all know, those of us that are complete converts to HBD, that it's a lifestyle. It's not about the odd wonderful meal. It's about how you do it every day, and how you do it with all your family, and how you can afford to do it, and how you want to do it because it tastes nicer than the other food. So I think that's my kind of, you know, approach to it all, really, I suppose. And you know, and I really love it. I was saying to you also earlier that today I was having lunch, was a bit of a disaster because I was running around a lot, but I was having some cheese, and I occasionally have cheese, delicious, phase 3 cheddar. And I had my apple, and I thought, oh God, I would see if I can make a chutney. And I spent, I don't know, a bit of while, and it's got a bit of perfecting to go, but it was pretty delicious, actually. So things like that, and condiments also really help with the day-to-day cooking. If you make a condiment, put it in the fridge, you can put it on everything, and that is another way forward, I think, for a lot of HBDers.
Like your genius red pepper ketchup. I mean, how brilliant is that? It's total genius. Because, you know, nearly everybody loves ketchup, but as we know, we can only have 30 grams max of tomato per day. So what does Lizzie do? She comes up with amazing red pepper ketchup. Delicious. Thank you. We are so lucky to have you with us. We really are.
Oh, you are lovely,
Lizzie,
as always.
Just thank you. Just coming back to what you've been through and being on steroids and everything. And of course, we know that steroids not only make you look a bit peculiar, but also make you very, very hungry. How did you navigate that, but at the same time stay true to HBD?
Well, that was a really good point, and that was something I wanted to raise on here as well, because obviously I'm a bit moon-faced and all that sort of stuff. But more importantly, I think it's what it really made me realise. I was so hungry. They put you on these ridiculous steroids when you've had surgery to stop your brain swelling, so they're pretty strong. And I was so hungry. I said to you, if the kids had been stood still long enough, I would have eaten one of them. It was ridiculous how hungry. It was like the hungriest you've ever been times 10. But instead of going for, you know, pre-HBD, I would have gone, well, I've got an excuse now because I've just had a brain tumour removed, so I can do anything. I'm going to order Domino's pizza, or I'm going to order whatever. I don't like Domino's pizza, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I found myself instinctively making huge omelettes, which was brilliant. So I would come, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, mind you, but I would, you know, we went through a lot of eggs. Or, you know, I just threw away the scales because there was no way that was coming anywhere near. But the choices of the food that I was using made me realise how indoctrinated I've become into this, because it really helped me. Because coming into the experience of major surgery as well, having been doing HBD for a year at that stage, or a year and a bit, everything was better. My blood pressure was lower. You know, I was lighter. You can cope with surgery so much better when you go into it with a better baseline. And I was so grateful for that, I can tell you.
And Lizzie, did you were obviously craving eggs, which is a very good craving to have, because very good for brain health and, you know, fantastic protein for repairing everything. Was there anything that struck you as odd about something that you might have been craving which you hadn't even thought about before? Or was that the extent of it, the eggs?
Well, no, there were other things, walnuts. And then I found out, and they look like brains, so they slightly put me off, the look of them, but I just really wanted lots of walnuts. And I think really quite a lot of high protein food was what I craved. What else did I crave? Oh, weirdly, mangoes. I don't even really like it. I think it was just, but I remember speaking to you and you were so kind, and after it all happened. And one of the things that tends to happen for anybody on here that's got to go through major surgery or has been through major surgery is the anesthesia they have to give you, and all the medication really makes you feel like crap. And I spoke to you about that and said, what can I do? Because I literally felt like a ready Brett kid. You know, I was glowing in the dark with all this medication. And you advised me to have parsley tea, which was brilliant. I mean, I just felt like it was, you know, when you've got to use clarifying shampoo in your hair because it's all a bit ick. It was like that, but on the inside. And it was fantastic. Really, really helped. And so it was sort of managing my way and navigating through all of that. And then I was really lucky because we'd had a family holiday booked to Turkey and never been there before. Really nice. And so I went through all of this funny intermediary phase where I was waiting for my final results, and I had Mr. Bump head and everything else. And then we went off to Turkey, and it was just complete bliss, and got away and got some perspective on it all. And the food was really inspirational. You know, lots of lamb with all sorts of different interesting cinnamon and nutmeg and really good spicing, and I fell in love with a lot of the food there, which I'm worth HBDing up.
Yeah, well, lucky us too that you went to Turkey, because that's one of the things that one of the many things that you're really brilliant at in the kitchen. Well, you know, generally is using lots and lots of different herbs, which of course is very good for our gut health, very good for our microbes. And not only that, but the most importantly, they make things taste delicious.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. If you had to choose 3 herbs, Lizzie, what would they be if you had to have?
Ooh, you could only interesting. But I could only have 3. Definitely chives. I'm a big chive fan. Because they add that oniony hit. They're a simple one. They add and yet they don't take away from your vegetable allowance. So you can use them in loads for HBD. So you can use them in loads of different recipes, and they give you the oniony kind of hit that you would get, but you don't use up any of your onion bit. So that's my first one. Coriander. I love it or hate it, but I love it. And you know, and we can't have sesame seeds, can we? So because there's another protein, but so I think coriander does that bit, you know, when you're sprinkling it on top of, I don't know, a nice bowl of hot pho, or it's not called pho, it's called pho, because my daughters taught me that the other day. We went somewhere and they said, no mama, it's called pho. Anyway, pho. But you know, anything that's sort of Asian,
PHA.
Is that it's PHO. No, you see it, and I'm so uncool. I was calling quinoa quinoa until last year, but they were like, I was like, oh, I think I might have some pho, and they were like, no, it's called pho. So there we are.
Thank goodness for your
I
daughters.
know. They're great.
Super detoxifying as well.
Coriander,
Yeah.
is it? Okay.
Really good for us. Yeah, really, really good and delicious.
Really delicious. And then it's a really difficult fight between fresh rosemary, which I kind of can't live without, or flat parsley, which I also can't really. But then I also love dill because of all this. Very, very hard.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
And do you grow your own herbs, Lizzie?
I don't. I was going to. I had great plans for the garden this summer,
Too,
but then they all went slightly out the window. But I'm going. I'd like to grow them. I mean, I've got a few on the windowsill.
Yeah.
But I'd like to sort of get a herb box and be all bougie about it. And
that'd be lovely.
Yeah, it'd be so nice. And I use so many herbs.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest tips, and you can use them as a salad. You know, if you've got not much allowance left, like for example, there's another recipe going on next week, which is for fish cakes, which I know some of you have already like and have, and I've had loads of great feedback about, and they are easy and a crowd pleaser. But you often think, I need a bit of something with them, and so you have a bit of rocket, but it doesn't look great. But if you bung in some fresh coriander, bit of mint, bit of chives, whatever you've got left in the fridge, to the salad, and eat it as leaves, not chopped up, it's fantastic. And it's that kind of thing. I think is
really, really yummy. I know that when we talked, and I don't blame you at all. You said that you do not do the washing up.
No.
And I think that on here there would be legions of people who would long to come over to your house and do the washing up if you fed them something.
Yes, I know. We're all very welcome.
Yeah, for sure. We'd much rather do the washing up than and eat your food than not. So I want to say that. Also, Lizzie, I was just wondering if there was, other than pots and pans, of course, one kitchen implement that you think is really, really useful, particularly for somebody who doesn't really understand about cooking. Not fancy. What would that be?
Yeah, so not fancy. Probably my potato peeler, which isn't very glamorous at all, but I've got a really nice one. It's an OXO. It's got a good grip, and you can use it for so many things. And I think if you're trying to make when you're on phase 2 onwards and you're trying to make your vegetables a bit zhuzhy, or you want them to go further, you can use them for creating ribbons of anything, of courgette, of cucumber, of carrots. It's a really good bit of kit. Or if you're making a coleslaw, brilliant for making, shredding cabbage. And you set to with a potato peeler on a white cabbage, and suddenly you have this huge amount of white cabbage out of nowhere because it gets it super properly fine. So I think probably that, which isn't very.
That is so simple. I hope everybody caught that. A potato peeler. And Lizzie's got the OXO Good Grips one. Brilliant. And especially when you're first starting with HBD and everything might look a bit sad and a bit small on your plate. Get busy with your potato peeler because it really deceives the eye, doesn't it? And you think, actually, this looks pretty good.
Yeah.
There's nothing measly about this portion at all.
Because it's really, I think food needs to be visually really appealing as well. I mean, of course, not things like the stews and stuff. They're not designed to be, and they're comforting in their own way. But I think it just to take an extra 30 seconds. It's nice to do radishes that way as well. And you can pickle. It's also a good way of doing a quick pickle if you've got a peeler and you can get things really small and fine and then just chuck them in a bit of ACV with apple cider vinegar with a bit of sea salt and dill while you're doing whatever you're doing. So I think it's a really good bit of cheap kit that really elevates things.
Cheap kit. Yeah, I love that. A quick pickle. Why not? Let's all have a quick pickle. Yeah, no, brilliant. And so Lizzie's recipes, just a small selection of them, are going up on the website. Fingers crossed next week. And we'll also, I hope, have some guest HBDers like Midlife, Real Life, putting up a few things as well. We'll see what happens, but there should be 6 of Lizzie's recipes next week, which is so exciting and really exciting. Really excited to hear you're now working on a chutney to go with our ploughmans. That's very, very cool indeed.
Yes.
And the book that you recommended that your mother sent you off with was Julia Smith's How to Cook, and part 1 and part 2. Were there 2 books?
There were 2 books, and I've tried to see, and I think they are still available. And they're brilliant. Yeah. And they start chapter 1, recipe 1, how to boil an egg. and you think how ridiculous, but actually then you boil an egg and you think, oh, it's not quite right. Why is that? And, you know, it's just takes you back to basics. And I think now, you know, we're really fortunate on this gang. There's some amazing cooks, and loads of them, I mean, really amazing cooks and amazing inspiration. But I think it is good and important sometimes to take everything back to basics again, because, you know, we've got to remember why we're doing this, and it's because of HBD and having the benefits of HBD, and it's really easy to go off piste. And in fact, I had a question that I was going to ask you. Somebody asked me recently about, for example, miso and tamari. So obviously we can have those in phase 3 and use them to create, you know, flavor, but they're made of soy. So the question was, and the question is, can you have, I don't know, a tuna steak and make a miso dressing with it?
So I wouldn't use a miso dressing unless you're actually unless soy is the main part of your meal.
Okay.
And I know that you've been thinking about creating more soy and, well, tempeh and tofu recipes, Lizzie, which is very exciting, because I for one am very much looking forward to that. So yes, miso and tamari, but otherwise, if you're using, you know, if you're having tuna steak, it's better just use tamari. In phase 3. In phase 2, everybody try to let your taste buds come alive by themselves and just use herbs, as Lizzie does. But in phase 3, it's fine to use tamari, and miso, if you're having a soy-based meal, is perfect. Okay. Absolutely fine.
So just keep miso to when it's a soy thing, but don't have it with anything, any other source of protein.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. But tamari is okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That's good to know. So it's things like that. So I think it is good, and that's what's been brilliant actually about working. Well, there's two things that's been sublimely brilliant about working and being invited. Hugely honoured to be invited to put these recipes on your website. One, brilliant distraction over the summer, because I have been busy in the kitchen and perfecting them and working with you to make sure they're completely compliant. And I think that's really important, obviously. And people can go there now and go, okay, I know I don't have to risk anything. I know this is going to be fine, and I'll be sticking to everything as I should be. So yeah, I think it's been really interesting working with you on the nutrition side and thinking about that, but also it's just been amazing distraction getting over what happened to me in June, and I've loved it. So, you know,
fantastic. And Lizzie, you're so sweet, my darling. And whose idea was it, by the way, to go to Turkey after your operation and everything?
So we're the family of lastminute.com. So it's normally completely last minute. And normally my husband comes and he goes, Elizabeth, we haven't booked any holidays and we're going to go to Croatia next week or something. And it's always, you know, up in the air. But this year we were going away with my sis and all her children, and we decided to be a bit more organised. So we booked it in January, which was sod's law, because until the week before we went, I didn't even know if I could go. But it was amazing because we booked to go we sailed for a week. Fantastic. And again, I was a bit worried about that. Should I be on a little sailing boat and all that sort of thing? Because I still had all this scars and, well, it was all going on. Anyway, but it was the best thing being on a boat, because one thing I really noticed after my operation is I couldn't deal with any sort of sensory overload. So the airport was a nightmare. Yeah. It was really clattery and noisy and bright and people and I couldn't really, that really wasn't great. But being on a boat was amazing because it was just so peaceful, and we had pods of dolphins going past us, and it was just phenomenal, really. And the kids jumping in and out the sea, and it was really simple. And I wasn't allowed to swim in deep water, but that was all right because they got me loads of noodly things, so I bobbed around. And then it turned out that another dear friend of mine was in Turkey. So it was one of those things that worked out. And we'd never been. We went on a recommendation. We went to somewhere called Kalkan, because we've got all these young children, teenage children, and they want to go and party and things. Yeah. And it was fun, you know, it was really fun.
Yeah, amazing. Next time you go, Lizzie, I went with my son years and years ago, and I don't know how he found out about it, but he booked us, we went to Istanbul, and he booked us on a food tour, which meant, you know, Istanbul is the most extraordinary city, you know, full of so many different cultures and different types of food and everything else. And we went around all day trying, you know, the specialities of all these different communities. It was such fun. The one really gross part was, though, there was a dead goat which had been, I don't know, sort of mummified or something, and it was full of cream cheese, and it was kind of so it had a bit of hair on it.
What, real cream cheese?
That kind of sticks in my memory, and I didn't have that because I thought it really is too hideous.
That's
But the rest
absolutely
of it had
disgusting.
amazing. And probably
Yeah.
like you, was at the beginning of the fig season, and the colour of the fruit and vegetables
Oh,
there, and the flavour
it was
is just
apps,
incredible.
tomatoes, everything
Everything.
was just different level.
Yeah.
And we went to Istanbul actually for the first
Wow.
weekend, which was part of the trip. So, but I wasn't up to that because of all this woohoo. So I stayed in a very nice hotel and just chilled out next to the Bosphorus. And Tim took all the kids off, and they went and did all the souks and explored and everything else and did all of those things. That was a bit too much for me at that point. But yeah, I mean, the goat, someone's put the goat. It sounds utterly disgusting. But the food there is, and it's just the use of spicing, I think, is what I've taken away most from that trip for me.
They're amazing cooks, the Turks, aren't they?
They really are. Yeah, it was phenomenal. And a really timely trip. And then coming back, I was inspired. It was the summer holidays, and yes, there was, the odd teenage drama, and they went off to festivals. But in between all of that, I could lock myself in the kitchen because we were chatting and start perfecting a few bits and pieces here. And I've got a lovely moussaka I've now made, which is inspired by my trip. So really delish. Inspired by my trip by Turkey, and it's all phase 2 onwards. It's really yum. So it was great for all of that and inspiration as well, which is really good. Yeah, really.
We're so lucky that you went to Turkey as well, and it's so lovely to have you back with us, Lizzie. So
it's so lovely to be back.
Yeah, newbies, if you don't know, this is Lizzie, who has been away for a while, and if you just joined us, do listen back. She's been through quite the shock and horror this summer, but she is back, and she is cooking up delicious storms again, and she's sharing some of her favourite recipes with us on the website. All being well, that should be live next week. So if you haven't already, do sign up for the newsletter, which, don't worry, you won't get bombarded with the newsletters. You'll hardly get one at all. But do sign up, and that way you'll hear about the new additions to the website, including to the Eat section, where we have the lovely Lizzie populating it with some gorgeous deliciousness. So don't miss that. Lizzie, I'd just like to see there are some questions in the box which are very possibly for you. So let's just have a look at those.
I've just seen one hilarious one saying they wish I could do a cook, like Cook, the shop, so I can cook meals and then people could have them. Oh, I wish I could, but I can't. How nice is that? It's so lovely. Right, so sorry, yes, in the box. Let's have a look.
So Lizzie to 50 HBD, Lara says, in phase 4, is it okay to use stevia? People think that stevia is a kind of natural sweetener, which it kind of is, but it's an extract of something natural. So it is highly processed, and what we're trying to get away from is the sweet taste, the sugar monster. So I would say be very, very careful with stevia. Now and then it's okay, but don't get used to using it as a staple again.
I think fruit as well. I think there's a tendency to get that's what I found anyway for myself, where you sort of get a bit cocky in phase 3 and you start having a few blueberries with your nuts at breakfast, and before you know it, it's really crept up, and that's huge sugar, isn't it?
It's huge sugar. It really does. Sugar is so sneaky in that way. We hardly notice, then suddenly, oh my goodness, we're almost back to where we were before we started HBD. So be very careful. And Vanessa says, hi P, do you prefer 85% chocolate with real sugar instead of stevia, or monk fruit? I would say real sugar, definitely. What do you think, Lizzie? Do you like that?
I have the Montezuma stuff, which I know we've had the conversation a million times before. It's an acquired taste, but there's a Montezuma dark chocolate, 100% cocoa, and it's amazing. To start with, it makes you go because it's a bit like it's an acquired taste, but then once you get into it, it's absolutely delicious. And if you have 2 small squares with a nice black coffee after lunch, if you've got a busy afternoon, my God, it's like rocket fuel. It gives you loads of energy, you feel amazing, and it feels like a treat.
I think Lizzie said iced rather than nice black coffee.
No, iced. Yes, iced black coffee.
Yeah, God, that sounds good. Perfect.
It's really yum. And put some cinnamon in the iced black coffee. We talked about this last time. It's my espresso martini recipe, which is what I pretend it is when I'm rushing around a bit. But it's iced black coffee with some, and also nutmeg in it is delish. So with a bit of cinnamon, some grated nutmeg, a couple of ice cubes. You can even put it in a cocktail shaker. You just get really into it. And the the flavors of the dark chocolate and the nutmeg and the coffee, it's your treat. I mean, it tastes brilliant, really, really good. And someone else is saying that M&S do a great 100% dark chocolate as well. So it's out there.
Times have really changed.
It's a real antioxidant, isn't it? Dark
chocolate. It really is fantastic. Yeah, gut microbes love it. Perfect. Really, really good. Thank you for that, Lizzie. And I think that's a great idea to put in a cocktail shake, and then you get that kind of creamy, foamy head on it as well, don't you?
Or a NutriBullet. Some people do it in a NutriBullet with the ice, and then it looks like a pint of Guinness, because you get like a head, the creamy bit on the top. But it's another good way of getting this, because they're so good for you, aren't they? Cinnamon and nutmeg are so good for you. And getting them involved.
Yeah.
And you drink it and you don't think about it, but it's actually doing you the world of good as well as tasting amazing.
Exactly. Win-win-win.
Win-win-win. Yeah. Exactly.
Liz Revel HBD says, is it safe to do this diet program with a BMI over 50? Yes, it is. If you're worried, always work with your doctor. But always do remember that HBD is just food. There's nothing funny about it. There's nothing faddish about it. It's just Mediterranean diet style food, as as fresh and as unprocessed as possible. So yes, but yeah, again, for anybody who's thinking about HBD and who's nervous about it in any way, please do check with your doctor first. And somebody else has said, DAMR 2005, hi P, could you kindly give those newbies of us an overview of the HBD? So first of all, I would say, if you haven't been looking for my book, the most important thing to do is to read this book. Not the HBD cookbook, which is a lovely cookbook, but it's not the program itself. It doesn't explain why the program works and why the rules are so important. And it's split into 4 phases. So you've got phase 2, which is 2 days of eating lots of veg. Sorry, that's phase 1. And then phase 2 is 14 days of being really strict. No oil, no alcohol, no sugar, preferably no dairy, no grains. And then you move into phase 3, which is when you add in the extra virgin olive oil and get to have a treat meal once a week. And you stay in phase 3 until you're, well, for at least 10 weeks, or until you're happy with your weight. And if you get to your weight loss goal before the end of phase 3, do see the troubleshooting section in this book, which explains what to do. And if you haven't reached your goal weight in phase 3, just stay in phase 3 until you have. And then you move into the forever phase, which is when you really understand what your body likes, what it would rather not have, and how to take HBD forwards into your life feeling as good as you possibly can, because that's what it's all about.
It is. And that is what it's, having done it, it really, really is. And I mean, I'm really excited about January because I'm going to do a proper reset again. I feel after this year, I need to just have a go back. And a few things have crept in, like I've been eating a bit more red meat, and I've noticed my joints, and I quite like to take it back to basics again. So it's sort of, I love the fact that it's a January reset, and some people do it to lose weight, and some people just do it to get back to sort of a baseline, and then and get rid of everything and then reintroduce it back in again. And it makes you feel fantastic. And I know you say it's a tough 14 days, and it is quite tough, but it's really worth doing because the energy levels, the brain fog, I mean, forget the weight loss, the skin, everything is just so much better. And it's a really,
it's scary the first time, isn't it? Because you don't know, first of all, can I do this? Will I be the only person who doesn't get the results I want with HBD? That's one of the things.
Yeah.
Will I die? Am I eating enough food? No, you won't die, and you are eating enough food. So all those things. So the second or third time round is much easier because we know how brilliant, like Lizzie was saying, how brilliant you'll feel, and not just lighter but brighter in every way as well. Yeah.
And do you know what it's about? I said this at the beginning of my last one. It's about control. And I think you get your control back of your life. And that's something really at the top of my list right now, is to get some control back.
Yeah.
And you really do. And it is really scary the first time. I was scared because I'm quite greedy and I love food. And I thought, my God, I'm going to fail. And I didn't want to be a failure. But actually, it's not as hard as you think it's going to be. And I said it before again, but I'll say it again. Lucy Stew, who's Think Watching, she introduced me to you and to HPD. And she said the best piece of advice, and that is just take one day at a time. Don't think beyond that. And if you can, have a support network of friends, or everyone on here is amazing. And so supportive, and everyone's got a tip or a solution or a way of helping. So I think, you know, and it feels lovely to be part of this gang. We're really lucky to have it. It's so wonderful.
We're so lucky to have each other.
We are.
And thank you again, Lucy, for introducing lovely Lizzie.
Yeah. Thanks, Lucy.
Wonderful. Lizzie, have you already got a date, or are you just thinking in January the kids go back to school?
I'll do it the day they go back to school. There's no point in doing it on the 1st or 2nd, because it takes a bit of headspace.
Yeah.
And you know, I've got a little bit less headspace than I used to have. Well, I've actually got a bit more, but it takes a bit of headspace to do it, because it's self-care. That's all it is.
Yeah.
If you think of it that way, it's self-care. And you know, we don't do that. As I mean, obviously there's lovely men on here doing it as well, but there are a lot of women in my age who raise families, and you know, and they bleed you dry, these families of ours, and we do it gladly, and we give everything, and we, you know, literally give our all. But I think we get to an age and a stage in life where you need to do the oxygen mask on the airplane. You know, you need to look after you. And okay, I had a left of field thing happen to me, which had nothing to do with my weight or my diet or anything else. But generally, it helped that even. So it's just about putting the oxygen mask on, I think, and thinking, this is, I've got to take responsibility for myself, for the sake of my family, for my own sake. And you only get one life. So you want to be the best version of yourself if you can be. And that's what this properly gives you. And there's loads of support. I can't recommend, you know, I can't recommend it enough. I think it's really.
Thank you, darling Lizzie. No, very well said. So if you're on the fence and wondering, will this work for you? Should you just start?
Just do it. Yeah.
Just do it. Exactly. And we're so lucky to have each other, aren't we? We really, really are. It's an amazing community. Yeah. Really, really amazing.
Totally. The only thing I would say is start, but I would also, do you need to plan it a bit, in my opinion? Don't start if you know you've got a wedding next weekend, and then the following Tuesday you've got a client dinner, or whatever it might be. Try and clear your diary. That would be a piece of advice, just for the first 16 days.
Yeah.
Of course you can work around it, and as you get confident and comfortable and you're fine with what you're eating, it becomes easy to slot a social life in and around it. But initially, for the first time, I would say try and, do you not agree? Do you think that's
completely
true?
Agree. Yeah. Look at your diary and make sure that you've got 16 days. And, you know, you may have to go out, but, you know, usually when we have to do things, you know, we can choose to drink water instead of wine, and we can choose to eat before we go sometimes as well. So just, you know, really make it work for you by supporting yourself as you would a really good friend.
Yeah.
And then you can do it. And Liz Revel, you can do it too. And I love what you said here. I feel this has come along just at the right time for me. And it has. And things always do in life, don't they?
They really do.
Yes. Really do. Yeah.
I'm testimony of that. They really do. So it's very true. Yeah. Very lucky.
Yeah. So lovely comments for you, Lizzie.
Oh, here we go. Oh, yes, some lovely comments. Thanks, everyone. That's so kind. Oh, God, there's some lovely messages. I'm so sorry. I didn't even see this. Let's have a look. Halfway through phase 2, to check the book, we wanted to double check, can I have 100 grams of allowed fruit after a meal? I've had a hard week at work, love my apple for lunch, but feel like a small sweet treat.
Yes. So you wouldn't have
the question is, can you have 100 grams of allowed fruit after a meal, presumably separately to the apple with another meal? So in addition to the apple.
Exactly. So you'd have the apple at one meal, and then you could have 100 grams of fruit at another meal. Absolutely fine. Most people find they do better when they don't have too much fruit. So don't have it as a matter of course. Have it when you feel you need a little treat. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Do you get that, Lizzie?
Yeah. Totally.
You said you eat mango, and mangoes apparently make us happy, so that's got to be good.
Oh, is it a happy fruit? Maybe that's why I was craving it. Who knows? I like blueberries sometimes in the morning.
Yeah.
I love a blueberry, and I think they're like really super fruit, aren't they? They're amazing. They're so good for you because all the purpleness. Is that right?
So good for you, exactly. Good for your brain, good for your eyes.
Okay, both of which need a bit of help, let's face it. Oh, okay, so we've got one here. I had halloumi and error during phase 2. This is from HBD Blossom. I've had no other dairy. Do I have to repeat the phase, as I know this is a strict phrase? You do have to repeat it, don't you, if you've had...
Yeah, I mean, going dairy-free is not one of the rules, but it is recommended. So HBD Blossom, I wonder how you felt when you had the halloumi. I hope you felt all right, and how long you'd been completely dairy-free before that. But don't worry, just carry on with phase 2. And if you want to test dairy, don't have any more for at least 2 weeks, and then introduce it in phase 3 and just see how you feel. That's best.
Okay. I think that's it on the questions.
Lizzie, thank you, my darling. Thank you so much. And thank you for your deliciousness, and can't wait to share it with everybody on the HBD website, which is thehumanbeingdiet.com, by the way. And do sign up for the newsletter there so you don't miss out on any of the news. And as I said, don't worry, you're not going to be inundated with newsletters. They're few and far between. But Lizzie, thank you. You're wonderful. And it's, huge welcome back. We're so pleased that you're back and so relieved that you're okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And there's one more question just popped up from Laura. Yes. Can you give advice to a lady who's still feeling fatigue on day 18?
Day 18, I would say take magnesium, try magnesium. Magnesium is really important to create ATP, which is our kind of chemical energy in the body. Try having Epsom salt baths at night, another way of getting magnesium into your system. Try cutting out fruit, just having the apple a day, and really focus on good quality protein. So look in the book to find out what that means. It's essentially animal protein like eggs, fish, meat, chicken, or if you're vegetarian or vegan, looking at things like tofu and tempeh, and taking it as easy as possible. I hope you're not exercising. I hope you're not doing too much physically, because our body's making the switch from burning carbohydrates like sugar for energy to burning stored fat. And if we're doing too much physical activity, the body's not going to make that switch. So really take it easy, and fingers crossed, and let us know how you get on.
Yeah, and I think also drinking water. That's the other thing, don't you think? That gave me more energy. Drinking,
really important. Thank you, Lizzie. Completely forgot about water. It's absolutely crucial. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for joining, and thanks for answering all the questions, and thank you for making our HBD adventure much more interesting. Lizzie, you're wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I don't know how to end this, so I just have to sit here now. Or we finished. It's lovely to see you. Stay safe. Most important.
See you. Yeah. You too, my darling. And
thank you. Take care. See you soon.
Bye.
Mwah.
Bye.